Rose is an interior designer who nervously prepares for her presentation. She rushes to Caroline Design's office and meets her boyfriend and colleague, Rob. He wishes her luck for her presentation. But Rose knows nothing is ever good enough for her boss, Caroline Sebastian. Rose confidently explains how she plans to design the interiors. She wants to make sure that the Tannin Hill home gets the feeling of warmth. Caroline thanks her for an informative presentation with a straight face and walks off. Rose needs to know what Caroline thinks of her designs after years of working with her. This project could be her big break. She asks Rob for his honest opinion as her colleague. He knows how much she loves flowers because of her family's tulip farm, but asks her to tone them down. Caroline brings Rose to the Tannin Hill house to show her all the aspects she mentioned in the presentation without visiting the place. She asks Rose to be more descriptive. The Tannin Hills, who bought the place before moving to Paris, are shifting back in a month. She wants Rose to start working on the interiors immediately with new ideas. She wants to let Rose work on the project because of her vivid imagination. Even then, Caroline wants a strong say in the decisions, because the Tannin Hills are her most important clients. She assures Rose a promotion if she does a good job. If she doesn't, it could go downhill for her. Rose keeps working late at night to make sure everything is perfect. Her mom, Sarah, calls to ask how things are at work. She's very busy at the farm during spring because the tulips are about to bloom. They also have a lot of orders. She has managed to convince Rose's dad, Frank, to hire an operations manager. She hopes that will finally help him delegate work. She wants Rose to come home for a few days and mend her relationship with Frank. Rose insists she's going to be busy at work, so Sarah understands. Over the next few days, Rose gives her all to the Tannin Hill house and manages everything. Rose soon learns that Frank fell from the roof while working and broke his leg. Sarah feels lucky that their new flower broker was with him at the time to take him to the hospital. Rose doesn't believe that Frank got a broker because he always thought of them as slimy middlemen. Sarah assures Rose that they will manage the farm with his injury. Rose still knows that the harvest season will be tough with Frank's condition. She begs Caroline to give her 2 weeks off to help her parents. She explains that the tulips are ready to be shipped to retailers. She assures Caroline that she can manage work for the Tannin Hill house from her computer. Caroline is worried about Rose not being present at the site, but she intends to ask Rob to keep checking in on the house. Caroline allows her to leave with a guarantee that she will fly back immediately in case of an emergency. Rose drives home and finds the house empty when she enters. She startles Tom, who is on a ladder on the window, but saves him from falling by catching his hand. Tom works with her parents and knows they're about to be back from the hospital. He was fixing something on the roof that Frank couldn't because of his fall. He gives her a ride to the farm, and she shares that she last came home 3 years ago after finishing school. She's curious about the hothouses Frank has installed. She hasn't been on speaking terms with him since she moved to Los Angeles. She assumes Tom is the operations manager and starts bad-mouthing the slimy new broker. She's worried about why the crew hasn't started working yet. She asks Tom to do his job better and make sure things happen on time. Sarah is glad to meet Rose after so long, but Frank gives her a cold greeting. When Sarah mentions how grateful she is to Tom, Rose realizes he's the broker and not the operations manager. She feels embarrassed about calling him slimy, but he takes it in good spirit. Rose wonders why they hired a broker, so Sarah and Frank explain how good he is. Tom is a local and helpful, and even grew up around flowers like her. Rose still thinks of him as a sneaky businessman. Frank makes sure to remind her that they had to take tough calls in her absence. Rose explains that she wanted her own career, but Frank doesn't get it. The next morning, Rose gets dressed up to manage the crew at her family's Newell farm. When Tom gets her a drink and seems concerned about her folks, Rose doesn't trust him. She thinks he's being charming and warns him against raising his percentage. Tom introduces Rose to their operations manager, Billy Chambers. Tom asks the crew to get to work, but Rose wants to give a speech. She has prepared diagrams, but it's awkward because no one knows her. Tom introduces her and helps her hand out the schedule. The crew almost gets aggressive about the lack of breaks. Tom manages that too and smoothens things over. Rose gets involved with the crew and gets her hands dirty to start harvesting the tulips. Tom loves that she pitched in like that, because most people in her position wouldn't. Rose loves this time of the year and the process of replanting the tulips. When Frank also comes to the farm despite his injury, Rose knows he's hiding something. She learns that Newell Farms is an official entry for the Valley Tulip Festival competition. They can get national recognition, and Tom has pulled some strings so that a win could help them be a part of the America is Beautiful campaign. She's surprised that Frank has created a new hybrid tulip for the occasion. This is why he needed to build the hothouse to keep them isolated. Violet Mason brings lunch for Tom, who is surprised that she knows Rose. They went to grade school together and haven't seen each other in a long time. While Violet gets possessive and asks Tom to walk her to the car, Rose decides to check out the hybrid tulips. Violet wants Tom to work with her because she thinks he's a middleman in an unpredictable business. She seems concerned about him losing his job overnight. Rose doesn't understand why the tulips haven't bloomed yet, even if all the conditions are favorable. They just have 2 weeks to get them ready and can't delay it for next year. Tom also seems concerned because their slot will have to be given to someone else if the hybrid doesn't bloom. Frank explains that business has been tough and they might lose this farm to bigger players. Rose asks Tom to give them a week to figure out what's wrong before he reports it to the committee. She promises to take care of the business side, while Frank observes the tulips. Rose discusses her issues with the tulips with Rob and how Tom is helping a lot. The next morning, as Tom starts delivering the flowers, Rose insists she wants to tag along. Rose is excited to meet a local retailer, Ada, who is glad she's back to help her parents. When she shows her around, Rose remembers the time when she helped her dad make these deliveries. Rose insists that Los Angeles is her home now. Ada thinks she can only know which place is home from the way she feels when she leaves it. At the end of the day, Rose is glad she had fun with Tom after not trusting brokers for a long time. She always assumed they were grumpy old men who didn't want to get their hands dirty. Tom explains that he grew up in a nearby town but went to school to get his business degree. He remembers his camping trips with his dad as a child. They planned to have more trips, but he passed away when Tom was in New York. He regrets not appreciating these small things in life. This is why he found a middle ground to use his business degree by becoming a flower broker. Rose thanks him for helping her parents and thinks he's a good person. Rose makes Frank's favorite breakfast the next day and asks him to take it easy. Violet has heard that Frank's tulip is in danger. She asks Tom to reconsider her offer and thinks he will fail by vouching for Frank. Violet is working on her own hybrid tulip and walks Tom to back her. Tom doesn't want to abandon the Newells since they were his first clients. Violet thinks he's sticking around because of Rose, but Tom doesn't comment on that. Rose keeps trying to figure out what's wrong with the hybrid. She plants one tulip on the farm as an experiment. As Rose helps her dad get to the bed, he remembers he forgot his reading glasses on the desk. While fetching them, she notices that Violet has made an offer to buy out her parents. That night, she figures out what's wrong with the tulips. The door in the hothouse has remained unlocked at night, which is probably the reason the tulips are feeling cold. She has found that the tulips grow in the perfect temperature during the day when everyone is around. But at night, the timer seems off so that the tulips go dormant in the cold. She knows someone is sabotaging them, and only Billy has the spare key. Rose knows this discovery is half the battle, because now they have to correct it and make sure the tulips blossom on time. Caroline calls Rose back to Los Angeles, because the Tannenhills are arriving earlier from Paris. Rose assures her that she can still handle things remotely. She begs Caroline for 4 more days, but she agrees to give her 3. Rose comes up with a risky plan to get the tulips to blossom in time. She suggests accelerating their growth by turning up the heat and putting a plastic sheet on the roof to get indirect sunlight. She knows that even by cutting back on water and making up with hormones, something can happen. Tom's reputation is on the line, but he agrees to support this risk. They all get to work, and she celebrates with Tom at the end of the day. She discusses her work crisis and how she'll have to get back to Los Angeles before the judging day at the festival. She reminds Tom that her stay there was always temporary. She also thinks Tom has a life there with Violet. Tom assures her he's not dating Violet. Rose still shares that she's dating Rob. When Tom teases her about it being a match made in heaven, she doesn't seem so certain. Rose notices Sarah taking some pills for Frank for high blood pressure. When Sarah admits that things at the farm have been tough, Rose discusses Violet's offer. Sarah and Frank haven't decided to sell yet and don't want to put pressure on Rose to help them out. Frank is grateful for her help and wants Rose to know that she's giving them a shot at saving the farm. At the bonfire, Violet hopes Tom isn't risking everything to help the Newells. Tom seems to know that Violet has information about the farm from Billy. When Rose turns up, she explains to Tom that she left the farm all those years ago because she was expected to stay. She wanted to try something new after having worked at the farm all her life. Her roommate was studying design and got her interested in it. Frank was very disappointed when she got a degree in design instead of horticulture. She got a job with Caroline right after school, which is also why she hasn't visited in a long time. Tom suggests that she can visit more often now, but Rose leaves before things start heating up between them. The tulips are in better shape, but Rose was expecting them to be farther along. She has always felt like she could grow anything and doesn't want to disappoint her folks. Rob is worried because he hasn't heard from Rose in a long time. She asks him to keep her updated about the Tannenhill house and assures him that she'll be back soon. On the day they're supposed to submit their hybrid, Rose seems nervous. When they all walk in to check the results, the tulips have started blooming. While they all celebrate, Rose is disappointed that the hybrid isn't good enough to win the competition. Tom still thinks she should be happy about making her parents proud. Rose starts spiraling about how they could lose the farm. Tom spots the one hybrid tulip she planted with the others on the farm. They know it can definitely be the one they submit for the competition. Frank names the hybrid after Rose, and they all take a selfie with it. Rose has to fly out early in the morning and thanks Tom for all the help. Tom knows she feels the same way about him and kisses her. Rose gets nervous and feels like she needs to go back home. Tom reminds her that she's home and just has to figure out if she accepts it. Back in Los Angeles, Rose keeps working. Rob asks her for dinner that night to catch up. Caroline takes her to the Tannenhill house because she's thrilled with her efforts. She has checked every inch of the house and knows that it's perfect. She already has another project for Rose that she can work on independently. Violet drops by the farm to ask Sarah and Frank if they considered her offer. She knows they will need more help if they don't win. When Sarah rejects her offer, Violet understands it has something to do with Billy. She tries to deny her involvement in sabotaging their tulips with him. Tom is sure it was her because he knows that she bought the same timer that created the problems. Violet tries to defend herself and insults their farm, but they're all sure they don't want to do business with her. Rob congratulates Rose for the promotion and admires her. He still thinks they both deserve someone who makes them feel special. They're both relieved about this mutual breakup and decide to be friends. Rose quits the job the next morning, and Caroline understands it's because of the tulips. Frank and Sarah are about to leave for the festival when Rose surprises them. She apologizes for not realizing sooner that this is her home. She knows she belongs at Newell Farms and wants to make sure it stays in the family. At the flower festival, Sarah and Frank ask Rose to look around while they rest for a bit. When the judges are about to announce the winner, Rose surprises Tom with the news about her new career right there. As they kiss, Newell Farms is declared the winner of the competition. They all celebrate, and soon their tulip is on a magazine cover. When the tulips are ready to be harvested the next time, Tom is still around with Rose and is her broker.